Fantastic.
Well, hey there, Sand Trooper fans. Nabil6901 here, and I am here with Admiral Mahdi himself, Richard LeParmentier. How you doing, sir?
Very good indeed. Very good. Glad to be back in Orlando.
Yeah, it's always good to have you here, sir. We first had the gentleman here at MegaCon earlier on this year, and it was great to see him, but now we have the chance to actually talk to him personally and ask him a couple of questions. So the first question I have here is, how did you obtain the role of Admiral Mahdi? Did you have to audition, or did you know someone in the Star Wars project?
No, I was like first in. I auditioned in LA in 1976. George was doing auditions at the old Chaplin Studios, and my agent called me and said, Lucas is doing this space western, and you're going to be videotaped. And nobody had ever done a videotaped audition. So this was the first videotape audition. So like among a lot of firsts in Star Wars, there's a lot of technical firsts as well, and a lot of logistical firsts, and that was the first time. Huge old Sony camera and a big Betamax machine.
Wow.
And we all read the Han Greedo scene, and the casting assistant read Greedo. And then we, along myself and about 2,000 other guys, over the course of 2 weeks, read Han.
Wow.
So that was it. And then I went back to I was back in the UK, and they sent me a script, and allegedly he had remembered my audition. I don't know whether that's true or not, because they don't always tell the truth. You know,
That's Hollywood.
Yeah. But allegedly this was the case. And they sent me a script and offered me a part, which was, that if you remember me, it was a pretty shitty part that they offered me, because it was a one-line, no-name character.
Yeah.
So I turned it down.
Right.
And then a month later, I was sent another script, and I was offered Admiral Mahdi. So I went, well, this has got 6 pages, and I've got a name, and I have I mix it up with the bad guy in the movie, so it was a really good scene.
Right.
So I took it, and it just perfectly fit into my calendar, because those were the days when we all had careers, and I was playing a drug dealer for a TV cop show, procedural show the week before, and then the week after Star Wars, I was playing Ernest Hemingway at the BBC.
Right.
So it just worked in perfectly. So it was just one of those, okay, I'll do it.
Right, right.
So that was it. So, and the one-line part, a friend of mine took the part, and he went up to Elstree, and they gave him an Imperial uniform and one of those silly hats. And he waited around all morning, and George came up to him at lunch and said, Bill, you can go home, we've cut the scene. So he was paid, but he wasn't in the movie.
Never in the movie.
So I always say my best career move as an actor was turning down Star Wars.
Well, actually, talking about that, now, were there any scenes that you made that didn't make it into the film?
No. They were on such a budget, and they cut and worked that script. That script was honed. They were cutting stuff.
Yeah, it's not like today where you get, with the director's cut editions or the extended edition.
Yeah.
No, yeah. Oh, God, yeah. I mean, Ridley Scott makes like 4 movies when he makes a movie now.
Sure.
You know?
Right.
And then directors are kind of, and I think that's probably one of the sins of the business. People are kind of thinking outside of the 2-hour spectrum as well.
Yeah, that's very true. Now, how was it like to work with Peter Cushing?
Well, God, that is the most popular question. It's the most asked question. What was Peter Cushing like? He was very taciturn.
Oh, yeah?
Very, very distant, and he was waiting to join Mary, his wife, who had died 2 years previously.
Wow.
And he was just living to die. I mean, he really was. But on set, I mean, he didn't really get his chops weren't out of him in that conference room scene, because that was kind of my scene,
Right.
and Vader's scene. But in the scene with Carrie, you could see, boy, this guy's powerful, and she was the class clown. She was always cutting up and just ribbing the crew and ribbing Dave Prowse, but she was really, really respectful of Peter Cushing, and when he points at her, she jumped. I mean, because that was he was a powerful actor.
Right.
And you could just see that, and that was just to see that glimmer of like, boy, this guy, because he did a lot of Shakespeare.
Yes, he did.
I mean, his horror career kind of overshadowed his classical career, which he was I think probably he felt bad about that.
Really?
But he had he had some chops, that's for sure.
Very interesting. Now, what does it mean to you, or what kind of effect does it take on you, that scene with Darth Vader?
Oh, wow.
How many people get choked by Darth Vader?
Well, it is, and there was a poll, there's probably been another one, but I'm going to dine out on this one. There was a poll earlier this year, like in April, on one of the TV channels in the UK, and it was like the 100 top movie moments of all time, most famous movie moments of all time, starting with the farewell in Casablanca being number 1.
Oh, Casablanca.
And I'm number 31. So,
Wow, out of 100.
So next to, in between Strother Martin in Cool Hand Luke, and whether you know that scene, the guy here, it's a failure to communicate, with Paul Newman, and Jamie Sanchez after me saying, forget it, Jake, it's Chinatown. So it's not a bad place to be, and I'm in the top 50.
That's
You
great.
know?
Yeah.
So it is, and it's, so it's pretty cool. It really is.
Fantastic, fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, so going on that, would there be another role in Star Wars that you would have liked to have played
Oh,
if given
yeah.
the opportunity? Sure.
There you go.
Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Everybody wanted to be Han, And
So
I'm
everyone wanted to be Han. Not everybody wanted to be Luke Skywalker.
No, I don't know why.
It's interesting.
It is interesting.
Because you have that, and it's, hey, I'm the
Think about it. At the end of the day,
tough-edged guy.
At the end of the day, who takes the girl though? Han.
Yeah.
But wait, that was a couple movies later, really. You didn't know in the beginning, remember?
Yeah.
We didn't know Luke and Leia.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I'm jumping the gun
So
here.
it's but I'm sure he did. When I did that screen test, I was doing all that leech stuff. I was doing all that. I just played it really cool. And I'm sure he saw my screen test.
Right.
And he just picked that and said, "I'll do that stuff." So
Now, I saw you in a scene, I believe, in the commercial for the Star Wars
Yes.
Xbox Connect, right?
Yes, I did that.
And you were
last
laughing
year.
at the guy that was actually doing your role.
That was incredible.
Yeah.
I tell you, that was incredible because my agent called me and said, would you like to do this commercial? They really would love you to do this commercial. I said, yeah, of course, And the money was good. And he said, I got you really good money because they want you, right? So that was nice. And we went through a whole thing with LucasArts, ILM, Lucas Licensing, and LucasArts. And so I was on, then it was off, on, off for 2 weeks. So I had my measurements taken in Austin when I was based in Austin. I'm still based in Austin part of the year. And I had my measurements taken, sent to LA. They made a costume for me, and then I was off. And then I was on again, and it just kept going back and forth. So on a Monday, I was told, my agent said, it's off, it's not going to happen. I said, no, I'm nothing ventured, what the hell, Then on Tuesday morning, I had a midnight text from him saying, it's on, you're on this 7 o'clock flight to LA on Wednesday morning, you go right to the studio, you shoot, they're going to put you up at the Beverly Wilshire Hotel for the night, and you fly back. Because I had to be back by Bastille Day, I was playing in a pétanque tournament, so I said, that was the other thing, I've got to be back by the 14th.
Right.
So, off I go to do it. So I turn up, and it was just hilarious, just to sit in that scene.
Yeah.
35 years later with lookalikes who were really good. I mean, the lookalikes were fantastic. Tarkin not so good. Yeah, except the Darth Vader. But the Tarkin was, he was a bit. But the General Tag and me were just fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just hilarious. And I got my uniform because that uniform was intended for me.
Did you get to keep that uniform?
No,
when you were done?
no, those were all from a film called All Quiet on the Western Front.
Okay.
They were real German uniforms.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Later on when the film became a hit, then they made all the uniforms out of polyester,
Sure.
which were even hotter and not nearly as comfortable as our woolen ones. But I got on the set and I got my uniform. I said, God, this is great. I finally got my uniform. Because the uniform originally was so small, they cut it up the back and they put it on the extra, which is why there are no reverse shots on me from that angle. Because he was sitting there with no back.
You have a split.
Yeah. And so I asked the director, so what happened? Well, why did this take so long? And he said, Richard, the decision to have you in this commercial was taken at the highest level at Lucasfilm. So
That's
It
great.
went all the way to George, and
That's
George
good.
had to sign off on it.
Oh, that's
So,
good.
because it was the first time that a Star Wars actor was in a commercial for a licensed Star Wars product, and it was all kinds of, nobody had ever done it before, so
Sure.
that was another first.
That's great.
You know, so amazing, 35 years later, and you're still doing things first, you know, out of
Right.
Star Wars, you know,
Yeah.
it's amazing.
Good stuff.
How was it, what was it like to do the Family Guy?
I didn't, I've got to tell the truth.
I thought they asked you to do that for it.
No, it's Seth, he does all the voices.
What did you think of it? Do you think he represented you well?
Oh, no, I saw it. I just kind of bumped into it. I didn't even know it existed because it was on in the US and then it didn't go on in the UK for nearly like 9 months later. So I was kind of in a bubble. Nobody had even mentioned it to me.
Sure.
And I hadn't been in the States.
Right.
So when it popped up, you know, it's like, and the fact is that they did the entire scene.
Yeah.
You know, because usually they truncated all the other little scenes. to
Exactly,
get in
but
the
that one
Family
was so
Guy shtick.
important, we
But
gotta
that's
have
it.
it.
It was so good.
Yeah.
And so there was a guy repping me who came up. He did a screen grab, and we just knocked out some photos at Dallas Comic-Con.
We saw them at
last year.
MegaCon as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then I went and got them done properly, and my son did them, and he did the speech bubble and everything. And they're just incredible. But when I was at Comic-Con this year to promote the bust, we put out words like Richard would really like to meet Seth MacFarlane and blah, blah, blah. But he literally arrived on a train, got into a car, went underneath the convention center, went up in an elevator, did his panel, and left.
Wow.
So nobody could, I didn't see anybody. Right? So I had so I took one of the pictures and I signed it for him. I said, listen, thanks. Thanks for immortalizing me yet, you know, again.
Yeah.
Right? So I made sure it got backstage to him, you know, and then we got a thank you from his office,
Okay.
which means that they're not going to sue me. I take that as well, they couldn't anyway, it's my image.
Right.
They didn't ask my permission to
Right.
cartoon me, but thank
You
you.
could have sued them,
You
yeah.
know, exactly.
How does that feel, having, action figures now, a bust made out?
I know, it just goes on. And then we're in talks for a bobblehead as well. So there has to be an Admiral Marty bobblehead.
Absolutely.
Yeah, of
We got
course.
one.
Put it on top of our car.
Without a doubt.
Absolutely.
Of all the Star Wars characters, it deserves a bobblehead. Admiral Marty's got to have
That means you've made it.
You absolutely, well,
Yeah.
Family Guy means
Right.
you made it.
That's true.
That's true.
Family
Robot
Guy means
chicken.
you made it.
Yeah.
You know, well, actually, I met Seth MacFarlane on the train on the way back, because I came.
Oh, good.
So the conductor came down and said, oh, you know, Seth Green's upstairs. You know. So I went upstairs, and he was sitting with his posse in business class. You know, I was business class downstairs, and I was reading his script, and people kept coming up and wanted pictures taken, and there was this like asshole producer sitting across the aisle from me. But who is that? And he was really trying to look important, but people kept walking, and I think, you know, hell, it's Comic-Con. Comic-Con will last until Union Station in LA. Just go with it, you know. So, and then the conductor said, oh, Seth Green's upstairs. So I went upstairs. I walked up to his table, and I said, you're Seth Green? And he went, yeah. You know, and his posse kind of looked at me, so I gave him one of my business cards. And I said, listen, thank you for immortalizing me. And he looked at it, and 4 jaws just hit the top. And then suddenly they went from like, oh, cool, Hollywood,
the cameras out. Everybody come
to
take a
like
picture with you.
fanboys.
Yeah.
You know, like 0 to fanboy. And, you know, so it was hilarious. It was really hilarious. And they said, sit down. And I said, no, come on, we're all tired, you know, because he was down there for 3 days, and I was down there for 5 days. And I had no voice. I mean, it was, and I paced myself, you know, but it still drains you.
Oh, good stuff.
Yeah.
Well, that's about it. We thank you all for tuning in. Thank you so much, Richard.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
So stay tuned, because there will be more to come from this event. United we find.
The force is strong with sandtroopers.com. Indeed.